awards continue to roll in for the track team. We will fill you in on which explorer is being honored again. Hello, I'm Tegan Lamont.
And I'm Dana Bacora. Okay, this is definitely the last time we will talk about basketball. We promise. You're watching LaSalle TV's home for Explorer Athletics, SportsLine.
Welcome to SportsLine. This show features a SportsLine first. Isaiah Clark will sit down with Keegan Riley, the first water polo player to join the show.
And later, we'll take a look at a disappointing end to lacrosse's senior day.
But first, let's take a look at our SportsLine top 3.
Number 1, junior Darian Alston earned the award for A10 Performer of the Week after a stellar weekend in the field. Alston earned his second victory of the season in the triple jump at the Sam Howell Invitational in Princeton with a mark of 14.99 meters. The award is his third this year after winning it twice during indoor season. He also earned a top 10 finish in the long jump where he finished 7th with a jump of 6.62 meters.
Number 2, the men's basketball team held their banquet on April 10th to honor several members of the team with special awards. The first award of the night was the Academic Award awarded to Kean Sullivan for the top GPA for 2018. Ed Croswell received the Explorer Club Award, while David Beatty won the Rasul Butler Award for showing strong work ethic and dedication. For non-player awards, senior managers Jordan Russell and Dan Forbes were each honored with the Mr. Believe Award for those who have a strong commitment to the basketball program. The night was capped off with Athletic Director Bill Bradshaw winning the first annual Tom Gola Award for alums who have a strong impact on the program.
Number 3, Ariel Mitchell set a LaSalle record in the 100-meter dash with a time of 11.96 seconds at the Sam Howell Invitational. Her time claims 6th place in a field of 32 runners. The record was set in 2004 when Melissa Mastrangelo crossed the finish line at 12.03 seconds. Mitchell previously broke the 60-meter dash on several occasions during indoor season.
All right, so we have big track news.
Yes.
It seems like every week we have track news. But first, I want to touch on Darian.
Yeah, super impressive.
Yeah, it's his first semester here at LaSalle. He wasn't on the track team in the fall.
Yeah.
He's here now, and he is killing it for us. He's already broken the
Absolutely.
school record in the triple jump. And it seems like every week there's some type of news with him, whether it's an A10 Athlete of the Week or whatever it is. It seems like every week we're hearing something impressive coming from Darian.
For sure, yeah, we're constantly talking about him. Super impressive. I think in the beginning of the show, I promised that this was our last time to talk men's basketball this season. So I think since they had their kind of final ceremonies, we should kind of wrap it up with them.
Yeah, I mean,
on the show.
Yeah, finally it's time that we put them to bed and move along. But it is good to see the guys that we talked about all year being awarded and recognized for their contributions on the court. And my roommate, Dan Forbes, being recognized for his dedication to the program and being a manager for the last 4 years for the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool because we saw people like Kean who didn't see much playing time, still being able to get recognized for something and to represent his time here. And
it's an interesting thing that he's a scholarship athlete. Like a lot of the times when you talk about the highest GPA on the team, it's a walk-on athlete.
Yeah.
But he's a guy that's a scholarship that's been here for 3 years now.
Absolutely.
And he's really doing well for himself.
Yeah, super impressive. So to men's basketball, 2019.
Thank you for a season.
Thank you
I wouldn't say a great season, but thank you for a season.
Thank you for giving us content.
And stuff to talk about all the time. Anyway, that's all for this week's headlines. Let's see how our teams did this week. Men's track traveled to Princeton, New Jersey this weekend to compete in the Sam Howell Invitational. As we said at the top of the show, junior Darian Alston picked up a win in his signature event, the triple jump. Junior Ache Hall earned a podium finish in the 110-meter hurdles with a time just under 15 seconds. He also placed 11th in the 400-meter hurdles with a time just under 57 seconds. Sophomore Dylan Burnett placed 6th in the 110-meter hurdles, while classmate Dennis Mania tied for 4th in the high jump with a mark just under 2 meters. On the women's side, the Explorers had 2 representatives in the Sam Howell Invitational. Ariel Mitchell competed in 2 events, setting the school record in the 100-meter and finishing 18th out of 39 in the 200-meter. Junior Desiree Osley ran the 400-meter and finished 18th with a time just under 59 seconds.
The baseball team snapped their 2-game winning streak after being swept by VCU. LaSalle struggled throughout the series but got crushed in Game 3, 28-4. After a tough series, the Explorers bounced back against Maryland Eastern Shore and won 13-4. LaSalle took the lead early on and never looked back. Senior Ben Fazo had a successful day at the plate, going 2 for 4 and hitting his 5th home run of the season while adding 4 RBIs. Senior Peyton Sorrells went 3 for 4 and scored 2 runs.
Softball had a doubleheader against UMass over the weekend. In the first game, LaSalle suffered a loss via the mercy rule after giving up 8 runs in the first 6 innings. In the second game, LaSalle got out to a quick start. Senior Emma Schweigert reached on an error that scored sophomore Ashley Mendenhall. The Minutewomen responded with a game-tying run in the next inning. LaSalle scored 3 runs in the third with a 2-run double by Mackenzie Vogler and a run scored by Kaylee Joyce on an error. UMass would score again in the 6th and 7th inning to win the game 8-4. Isaiah Clark has the coverage for the next game against Drexel.
LaSalle faced off against Drexel in a doubleheader on Wednesday afternoon. The Dragons got the scoring started in the first inning when, with 2 outs, Drexel's Taylor Lee hit a grand slam home run. The Explorers started to gain some ground in the home half with an RBI double by sophomore Ashley Mendenhall that drove in Emily Conway, who got on with a double. Senior Emma Schweigert tied the game with a 3-run homer in the third inning that scored Natalie Rios and Ashley Mendenhall. With the game tied at 4 in the 5th inning, freshman Mackenzie Vogler hit a home run to put LaSalle up by 1. In the top half of the 7th, pitcher Morgan Orlowski had a chance to seal the game, but with 1 out, Drexel would hit a home run to tie the game, send it to extra innings. Neither team could get anything going in the 8th, each team only producing 1 runner in the inning. Finally, in the 9th, Drexel took the lead with a ground-out RBI. In the bottom half, the Explorers couldn't retaliate and lost the game 6-5. Ashley Mendenhall led the team with 3 hits, while Emma Schweigert had 3 RBIs. The loss moves LaSalle's overall record to 7-23 on the season. For SportsLine, I'm Isaiah Clark.
In the second game of the doubleheader, LaSalle got the upper hand on Drexel with a 5-run second inning. The Explorers would strike again in the third with a 2-run hit from Deanna Pinera. The Blue and Gold would have 1 more rally in the 6th, where they would score 6 runs.
La Crosse defeated St. Bonaventure in a 12-8 finish after a strong second-half performance led by redshirt junior Mickey Raymond. Raymond finished with a career-high 5 goals, while sophomore Bridget Ruski and senior Isabel Caddick each finished with a hat trick. The Blue and Gold got an early 2-0 lead before the Bonnies cut their deficit to 1. Raymond scored back-to-back goals to increase the lead 4-1. The teams were evenly matched throughout the remainder of the half, but the Explorers led 5-4 as the half came to an end. LaSalle scored 9 goals in the second half, which is the most they have scored in a second half since last season. The offensive explosion would be more than enough to take the win. The Explorers then returned home to take on Richmond for Senior Day. Miles Williams has more.
On Senior Day for the Explorers, Richmond visited for a divisional matchup. LaSalle got off to a hot start, jumping out to a 4-0 lead with 2 goals by sophomore midfielder Bridget Ruski and 2 other goals by junior midfielder Mickey Raymond and sophomore midfielder Allison Hunter. The lead didn't last long though, as Richmond fought back to go ahead before the Explorers could tie the game at 7 going into halftime. Coming out of the break, the action was back and forth with both teams exchanging goals. Bridget Ruski added 2 more goals, and already with the 1-score lead, Mickey Raymond assisted on the goal that was scored by Allison Hunter to put the Explorers up by 2 points with 9 minutes left. But in the final 5 minutes, Richmond scored 3 unanswered goals, including a go-ahead goal with 1 minute and 4 seconds left. LaSalle lost by a score of 14-13 and are now 5-8 with a 3-3 divisional record. For SportsLine, this is Miles Williams.
The women's water polo team was swept in all 4 games on a short trip to Brooklyn. Despite a close game against VMI through 3 periods, the Cadets were able to do just enough in the final quarter to defeat LaSalle 13-9. The second game against Marist was once again a tight game through 3 quarters. After a quick run at the beginning of the 4th from the Red Foxes, LaSalle was unable to mount a comeback and fell 17-12. Against St. Francis Brooklyn, sophomore Sarah DeFusco was able to net 4 goals. However, the Terriers put it just out of reach for the Explorers with about 2 minutes to go to take the game 13-9. In the final matchup, the Explorers took on an Iona team that dominated them in the second half, as LaSalle went on to lose 17-9.
The men's and women's tennis teams both traveled to Villanova and hosted St. Bonaventure this past week. Starting with the men, the Explorers dropped the Nova match 2-5. They earned a singles point from Rogelio Gonzalez, winning in straight sets. 2 Explorers teams helped earn the point for doubles, but it was not enough to overcome their struggles from singles play. The Explorers bounced back to beat the Bonnies 4-3, after earning wins in 3 singles matches and the double points. On the women's side, the Explorers dropped a 4-0 decision to the Wildcats. They later lost to the Bonnies 2-5 in a competitive affair. 5 singles matches went to 3 sets, but the Explorers were defeated in 3 out of 5 matches. The doubles team of Tiffany Theophil and Allie Snyder won, while Allie Snyder and Brittany Poggi earned wins in singles.
The men's golf team competed in the Wildcat Invitational in Malvern, where they scored 585 over the 2-day tournament. The Explorers carded just under 300 both days, which was the 4th and 5th time in program history. LaSalle finished 14th out of 20 teams, but still showed some fight. Star freshman Dragon Thiem was the highest scoring Explorer during the Invitational, scoring a 73 and 72, which tied him for 33rd in the individual standings. Meanwhile, the women's golf team competed in a tri-match against Niagara and St. Francis of PA, where they finished 3rd of the 3 teams, with a team score of 352. Junior Maribel Declan led the team with an individual score of 82 to take 5th place in the tournament.
Okay, so we didn't have like the greatest week for sports this week, but some people that I want to highlight that I don't think we've really talked about was the sophomore class on the lacrosse team.
Yeah.
I cover the lacrosse team for the Collegian, and I have seen that the offensive leadership is coming from the sophomores. We hear Bridget Ruski, Anina Akabuchi, Maddie Dukowski, Allison Hunter. These are all sophomores. They're all scoring hat tricks. They're like leading the team, and I think it's super impressive. I know we saw kind of them as freshmen. We heard about them.
Last year we talked about them a lot, especially Bridget Ruski and Yakabuchi.
But now it's like the whole entire class.
Yeah.
So I think that's super impressive, and I think we're going to be really talking about them a lot as A10 play continues. So I just wanted to give them a little.
Yeah, and like you said, we didn't have a great week. Baseball and softball both really struggled. Both of them got swept once at least. But it is good to see them bounce back, especially the softball team. They bounced back and took that second game against Drexel.
For sure.
And it's always good to see them keep fighting through those tough times in a season. Baseball and softball seasons tend to be super long, but just good to get back on the right track.
Yep, hopefully, we always got next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we come back, we have a SportsLine first as men's water polo player Keegan Riley sits down with us.
Hook to the dollar featuring on my mind. Return of the creature that crawled up from the subway line. You're always keeping me waiting, for you.
Welcome back. Our fellow producer, Izzy Clark, had the pleasure of sitting down with men's water polo's Keegan Riley. Take a look.
On the sideline. My name's Isaiah
Love
Clark.
that.
Today I'm joined by water polo's Keegan Riley. Thanks for joining me.
It's a pleasure.
All right. All right. So I wanted to start off with a question about the water polo program as a total. So this is only the third year in existence. So like I wanted to ask, like, how's it like being on like such a young program?
Well, it's really exciting. That was one of the main reasons why I chose to come to LaSalle is because knowing that it's a first-year program, I thought it'd be cool and have a great opportunity for me to be able to put, my effort in and, really be like the first foot forward for this program and, set a good example for years to come and just really set that good foundation. And I thought that'd be cool to do because, you don't really get that opportunity to be able to do that at much other schools because, they've been around. So I thought it'd be cool to be able to, because we're in the history books,
Yeah.
first
Okay.
team.
Yeah.
So
like you're a junior now, so you only have one more year left. Like, where do you see the team like in the future after you're gone?
it's a really exciting path actually. I think we're on a great trajectory. We've been recruiting a lot of great young players. We have a great young core, and the juniors now have been playing with each other for 3 years, and I feel like we're all starting to mesh really well together, and we're starting to know everyone's abilities, and I think it's only uphill from here.
All right. So speaking of the young players, like, is there anyone that stands out in particular for you, or is this a good group as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's just a really good group as a whole. They all have their heads on straight, and they're all dedicated to the sport, and that's what we need. We need kids who are going to be there, working hard all the time, and I think we have a really great group of kids for that, and hopefully it can continue.
All right. So like you're a junior now. You started as a freshman, like one of the first members of the team. Now you're a junior with that first group. How's it like being one of like the older guys on the team? Now that you started as a freshman, with no one to look up to, but now you're that guy in the junior. Now everyone's looking up to you.
No, yeah, we definitely got some mileage. Coming here, there was only one other senior, and that was the oldest kid we had on the team. And so we didn't really have much guidance or anything, so we kind of had to figure it out for ourselves. So, I feel like all the juniors have, matured and grown a lot, and it's really cool to now be able to, show the young players, what we learned and, how to really take their games to the next level.
All right.
I think it's cool to be a leader.
Okay. And how's it like playing for your coach Tom?
Yeah, yeah. Tom's a great guy. He's from California, so he's not really used to the whole East Coast cold and rainy. So it's funny to see him like deal with all that. But he's a great guy. I think he's he's a coach for the men's and women's team. He's real dedicated. I think he's doing great things for the program. He's bringing in a lot of good players. It's great. I feel like we have a good coach.
Right, and you talked about him coming from California. I know a lot of players come from the West Coast,
Yeah.
So, is there like an issue here? Like, is there a transition, like a problem with transitioning from being from California to like being in?
Definitely. It's completely different. So water polo is really big out on the West Coast and in other parts of the world. Like, it's just we have a lot of kids from everywhere. We have kids from Hungary. We have kids from South Africa. We have kids from Vegas. We have kids from California. Just all other parts of the earth, and I think it's cool to see how the sport is, making its way over to the East Coast because it's predominantly a West Coast sport. So I think it's definitely a big change, but I think there's still a lot of good competition out here on the East Coast that can put up with the West Coast. Show them what we're about.
All right. Yeah. Okay. And as a player, for like you personally, as a player, do you see yourself improving in your final year as a player here, or?
I hope. No, yeah. This off season, thinking it's one of my last. I'm really trying to kick it into overdrive. All the juniors are. We're all really, really serious about our craft right now, and it's all about getting better and working each other and bonding as a team to get to that next tier, and which we're trying to get to.
All right. And so moving away from athletics for a second, you're also a student, obviously. So can you tell us about like what your major is and like what else you do on campus?
I'm a comm major. I'm a mass media track. I do a lot of things around the campus. So I try to stay involved because free time's never a good thing. But I work for the athletic department. I film games and I take stats and do scoreboard and that type of thing. Other than that, I try to stay in shape and just stay true to my craft.
All right. So a part of being an athlete is obviously traveling around a lot. So how's that been? Like, do you have like anywhere in particular that you like to go with the team?
We, for the most part, we don't really go too far from the East Coast, but last year we actually went to California, and that was awesome. That was probably the best experience I ever had. It was really cool. We all went as a team and got on the plane, and it was cool because, you know, as a kid, you know, you're always dreaming to be, like, you know, that big-time athlete, you know, flying to games, you know.
Yeah.
And it was cool to kind of get that feeling of, you know, being, like, you know, something bigger, walking through the airport, everyone's got gear on. It's a cool feeling. So I thought that was really cool going to Cali. But other than that, you know, you gotta love it here at our home pool, Kirk Pool, baby.
All right, and speaking of Kirk Pool, you know, playing home game. Do you guys play a lot of home games here, or?
We're trying to get more home games actually. The first couple years we didn't because it's a smaller pool, but we've been doing a lot more. We actually have a tournament here this weekend for the girls. You know, you guys come out, watch. Starts at 8 a.m. Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be filming. So. No, but yeah, we've been trying to, you know, get our pool more involved and, you know, just really show that, you know, we are a serious school about this sport, you know.
And speaking of the girls team, you know, they've been improving a lot as well. Can you speak about that real quick?
Oh, yeah, the girls team, man, they're great. They got a lot of, you know, good young players as well. They're all starting to mesh together, too. They've been killing it this year. They got, you know, like I said, they got this tournament coming up. I think they could, you know, do a full sweep, so we'll have to see how they do.
All right. Thanks, Keegan. I want to thank you for joining me
No,
here.
yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. All right, that'll do it for On the Sidelines with Keegan Riley. I've been Isaiah Clark, and back to the desk.
Don't touch that browser tab because Sean Kelly joins us on desk when we come back.
Were we supposed to ad-lib?
I don't think so.
Kylie loves to an egg.
An egg?
An egg.
How does a general lose to an egg?
The internet to an egg.
You know, there is a show for that. It's called Backstage Pass.
See the new library plan?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, doing stuff in the library.
In the library?
Yeah.
New library. You know, there is a show for that called LTV News where the action never stops.
I wonder how the basketball team.
You know, there is a show for that called SportsLine.
So are you a Carson Wentz or Nick Foles guy?
More of a Nate Sudfeld team.
Oh, really? Interesting. Wonder where we can hear about Philly sports.
You know, there's a show for that called Sports Talk Philadelphia.
You like Family Feud?
Yeah.
You like all shows like that?
Yeah.
I wonder if LaSalle has a show like that. That'd be kind of cool.
There is a show for that called Q&A.
I really wish that we could just display our talents.
Yeah, me too.
There's a show for that called Explorers Got Talent.
All this and more on LaSalle TV.
There's plenty of LaSalle sports action this upcoming week, so let us welcome Sean Kelly for this week's Explorer Report.
Thanks, Dana. In this week's Explorer Report, the baseball team will host Quinnipiac for a 3-game series this weekend. The Explorers will play a doubleheader on Saturday, followed by a single game on Sunday. The Explorers and Quinnipiac will go neck and neck as LaSalle holds a record of 16-17 overall this season, while Quinnipiac is 13-17. The last time LaSalle played a doubleheader was back on March 29th against St. Bonaventure, where the Explorers dropped both games. Quinnipiac just recently played a doubleheader, where they also dropped both of their games as well. Some keys for this upcoming series include a strong eye for the ball when the Explorers are up to bat. Senior Ben Faso currently leads the Explorers with 35 RBIs while batting .257 and earning 35 hits. The Explorers also need to stay near the bases on defense as Quinnipiac leads the MAC in stolen bases. While Quinnipiac stands in second place in the MAC standings with a conference record of 7-2, it is time for the Explorers to show they can step up and be a standout non-conference team.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. So, like you kind of got to there, neither of these teams is really all that good.
Both kind of equally. Or
which
terrible.
is a good thing for LaSalle. Finally, it feels like we're talking about an Explorer Report for a baseball team or a softball team where they're not.
That's got a chance.
Where they're not overpowered by the team that they're playing. So thank goodness for that, finally. But you also mentioned how Quinnipiac has actually been really good in conference play, which I think can bode well for LaSalle because they're 7-2 in their conference, which means out of conference they've been quite bad. So hopefully that can mean LaSalle comes in and is playing in a bigger conference with tougher competition, and they're a little bit more battle tested and ready to go against a lesser team like Quinnipiac.
And I think LaSalle does seem to be ready to go. They have been doing much better than last year, I'd say. They have improved a lot over the offseason. And I think with how LaSalle and Quinnipiac have the same record and stuff like that, it goes to show where LaSalle is during the season, because it is that time of year where we got to look and see what LaSalle baseball is up to. Like, do they need to improve on some of the stuff? Do they excel at some of the stuff they do? So I think really this series is key for their season, as they both have the same record. And it's the middle of the season too, so they got to see what LaSalle needs to work on during the season.
I think that Tegan kind of brought up a good point that LaSalle and Quinnipiac are kind of like, neck and neck, but as far as out of conference, they're not, as great. So I think you're so right when you say this is the point where if our momentum's gonna go up and we're gonna kind of shift and, do better throughout the season, it would start with a series like this.
Yeah, so I think what we really need to look for is the pitching coming back for LaSalle and the bats like Ben Fazos and Tommy Tolles to stay hot. That's what's going to really be a key for us.
Yeah.
All right, so as always, we have predictions for this series, and I'm going to let Tegan start, even though it's not much of a difference.
Yeah, anyway, I don't have a lot of faith in LaSalle again. They're playing a bad team, but I think that they're at a point in the season where they're not doing all that great. I have Quinnipiac winning 2-1.
I am a little bit more optimistic than Tegan, but that's kind of the usual.
Yep.
I think we can pull out at least 2 games. So I have LaSalle 2-1.
And I'm on the same page with Dana. After watching some of the games that baseball's been playing, I have some optimism as well with LaSalle. So I predict a 2-1 series win.
Yeah, so hopefully, like we said, that offense can be there and the pitching breaks back out, and we're talking about how well LaSalle played next week rather than how poorly they did like we did this week. Well, that just about wraps it up for us this week. If you can't make it out to see the Explorer Report, be sure to tune in next week for our coverage. Keep up with this weekend's other sporting events by visiting goexplorers.com or check out this week's edition of The Collegian.
Also, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV and on Twitter at SportsLineLTV. We welcome you to send us your thoughts and suggestions there.
For Sean, Miles, Isaiah, and our SportsLine team, I'm Tegan Lamont.
And I'm Dane Pecora. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the game.